She was fair-skinned, wouldn't be caught outside without a hat or bonnet, and was used to waiting out the heat of the day on her porch swing or under the high ceilings of the house we used to live in. But Papa knew her buggy would follow along behind him, no matter if he decided we were going to travel past sundown and all night if he wanted to. Old Ben never failed Papa, and Papa didn't have to look behind him to know that old Ben would be bringing Mama along. She could complain all she wanted about Papa's hard-headed Scotsman ways. "You boys get off of those oxen and get your rifles out of the wagon," Papa said. "Hurry up now." Gun bailed right off and ran for his gun. Me, I hesitated and looked a question at Papa. "Do like I said." Papa's expression made it plain that he wasn't going to tell me again. "Smoke to the south." I noticed for the first time the sooty column of smoke, mixing with the cotton-white clouds in the distance, and didn't ask any more questions. Smoke was bad. Things burned. Things you missed. And then there were the Indians old Ben had talked about all the time, since we ferried our wagons across the Sabine River months and months ago. Indians were fierce. Everyone said so. Gun was already inside the wagon, and he handed me my gun. The Richmond musket was longer than I was, and I envied the short Maynard carbine that Papa had given my younger brother. It didn't look near so outsized or so silly in his hands when he carried it back to Papa. "You men look to your weapons," Papa said to the 4 Mexicans he'd hired to come along with us. "That smoke might be something or it might be nothing." Papa passed old Ben a look and nodded when he saw that the black man already had his double-barreled shotgun propped up against the buggy's dashboard, and the slab-sided dance revolver that Papa had bought for him laid on his lap. Old Ben was a good shot, and there were those back before Texas that said Papa was mistaken to give a nigger a gun. But Papa took great pride in his own common sense and laughed at them and reminded us boys that a Scotsman must be practical above all, and that it made sense to give old Ben a gun. Ben could be trusted, and from what we heard about the Texas frontier, I suppose Papa might have armed all his slaves, if that Republican Abraham Lincoln hadn't taken them away from him. I wasn't sure then exactly what a Republican was, but I knew they were as bad as those blue bastards. If you went to Texas, you might get away from them, and Papa was dead set on that and making a new home for us. Once we got to Texas, men that he talked to along the trail said all the good cotton ground down south was taken. Once more, a carpetbag, another word I aimed to find out about, governor, and other radicals had beaten us to Texas. All bad things, but that didn't stop Papa. He said we'd go farther west than anyone else. Maybe there wouldn't be cotton ground there, but we would find other ways to make a living. No matter what, we would live like free men, and like a Dollarhyde should. I was young, but even then I had an inkling of how stubborn we Dollarhydes were. The rutted trail we followed left the prairie and entered a thick belt of low scrubby oaks. Gun and I walked to either side of the wagon, both of us eyeing the edge of the trail to either side of us. Indians might be anywhere, and Texans said they stole children if they didn't cut your guts and scalp you. Gun and I had spent a great deal of time on imagining what terrible ways an Indian could hurt you. Mama made us quit if she heard us discussing Indian massacres. She said such talk would give us nightmares. We soon came to another stretch of prairie, barely visible through the timber ahead. The smoke climbing black into the sky was close by then, and Papa had us all stop and form up the wagons tight together. He put Mama, baby Beth, and Juanita, Jose's wife, inside one of the wagons, and the Mexican men stood guard around it. We didn't know anything about Texas Indians at that time, or I don't think Papa would have been so foolish as to think his arrangements might help anything. "You boys look out for your mother," Papa said while he waited for old Ben to untie his saddle horse from the buggy and mount up. We nodded fiercely, but neither one of us had a clue. We just stood there and watched him and Ben ride off toward that smoke. The south breeze couldn't find its way through that thicket, and it was as hot as the dickens. The flies were bad and making the stock restless. The Mexicans looked nervous under their big hats. Baby Beth was crying inside the wagon, and neither Gun nor I could see a thing of what had everyone so worried.